What's going on? I hope you guys are having a good day. Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And I want to say hello to everybody and welcome you to the platform. This is a space where we believe in being Black first. Black first means that we put our community first, that we care about our people first. It doesn't mean we hate anybody else, just means that we love ourselves. And if you agree with that, if that philosophy makes sense to you, then please put a hashtag B1 in the chat. And please greet our guests that you come through. We got a real cool guest, real, just awesome brother by the name of Chris Broussard. Now, Chris is a respected journalist, a well-known sports commentator. I want to say you're still with Fox Sports, but is that correct?
I am. Yep. I work with Fox Sports Radio. I have a national daily radio show Monday through Friday. It's called The Odd Couple with Chris Broussard and Rob Parker. And in fact, I believe that we were the first and are the only two Black male co-hosts of a national sports radio show.
Wow. Okay.
You may remember the Two Live Stews in Atlanta. Yep. And but they were only on maybe 20 stations nationally. We're in about 400 markets nationally. You do have Keyshawn Johnson and Jay Williams, the former athletes, but they work with another brother, Zuban Mahinte, who is, he's Middle Eastern, I believe, but he's not African American. So 2 out of their 3 hosts are Black, but we're the only 2 hosts. So we got 2 hosts, both of them are Black males. So we believe we're the only 2, or certainly the first 2 to do that. And then I'm on Fox Sports 1 television. So I'm on Undisputed with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, and The Herd with Colin Cowherd, First Things First, our various shows on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah. Well, first of all, everybody in the audience, if you could applaud for that, give a digital round of applause for what these brothers are doing, Rob and Chris. And let me just tell you why Chris is here and why I'm always happy when he comes by. Is Chris is just one of those solid guys. I'm gonna tell you, I assume others have shared this with you, but where one area where you really had a massive upgrade in my mind, not that you were ever downgraded, but one area where you know how it is. You got to figure out, okay, do people really believe certain things or do they not? You gave him a lot of my respect when you stood your ground on that controversy on ESPN. I don't know if it's on ESPN or on whatever network. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna recite what the issue was, because I know sometimes we just want to move on.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about, and you stood your ground, man. And I had a lot of respect for you after that.
Nah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And it was an issue around religion. And one thing I feel like, as you know, Boyce, the Black church has been very instrumental in the progress and survival, progress, liberation of the Black community and religion in general. Obviously we had great leaders in Malcolm X and who are, we're in the Nation of Islam. And so we've had some great Muslim leaders in our community as well. And one thing that's happening today, in my view, is Black people of faith, whether it's Christianity, Islam, Judaism, there are other religions out there that people aspire to, but those are the main 3 in our community. Many of us are buckling, are selling out our faiths, because those faiths teach you certain things about manhood, womanhood, sex, sexuality, things like that. And a lot of our people, I believe, are selling out their religion, their faith, that has made them and us so strong to fit in with mainstream society. And I'm not saying you dislike anybody, you hate anybody. You don't. And you love people, in fact. But we're supposed to be a pluralistic society. And so you have to make way for people of faith, too. And I feel like the country is kind of trying to push people of faith out. And we are respected and regarded as the most religious group in the country. But a lot of our leaders are, in my view, appear willing to sell out our faith and our biblical beliefs, or your faith in what the Quran teaches, to fit in with mainstream society. And boys, we want a piece of the American pie as African Americans. But I feel like at the rate things are going, by the time we get that piece, it's going to be rotten to the core. And so, I mean, Martin Luther King even talked about that, as you know, in the 60s, that we may have integrated into a burning house.
Yep.
And so we need to maintain our values and our beliefs as men and women of faith, and obviously as African Americans, even as we move into mainstream society or seek to.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And I what's really funny, man, is I have a confession to make on this. My daddy's a pastor, and my mama might as well be. My mama does all the preaching in the house, and my daddy's the official pastor. I don't go to church, right? But I have tremendous respect for the Black church, and I don't let people bash the Black church, because we know the Black church has a wide variety of things happening in it. Some of it, everything from the extraordinary to the debaucherous, and you can't put it all in one block. But one of the things I was really confused by was, when you got to the point where people were so willing, people that were allegedly devout in their faith were just so willing to kind of just let it all go, as you mentioned, and just like, okay, well, what is mainstream saying now, right now? Like, okay, right. It's a complete defiance to everything I claim to believe in, but because I don't know who the hell I am, right? I don't have that. That's your problem, man. That's your problem. And we're going to talk about that, right? Your problem is your damn masculinity, Chris. You're solid, right? When I told everybody you're a solid dude, I feel guilty when I say that, because it's like when you are a man and you stand on what you believe in, you become a huge target. There's a reason why I exist outside the mainstream.
Right.
So I have a tremendous admiration for the fact that you've been able to navigate that space and still, say, look, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. I'm not threatening anybody, but this is the man that I am. Tell us about that journey, and also just your role. You've been especially instrumental in terms of providing very powerful, authentic Black leadership on manhood, particularly in the Christian faith. And you got your King organization, things like that. Tell us about that.
Right. Well, I'm the founder and president of a national men's movement called the King Movement, which is an acronym for knowledge, inspiration, and nurture through God. So that's what you see behind me. And we joked about earlier, but a lot of people feel that it's not the Sacramento Kings. All right, I'm not a Kings fan. This is just it's a coincidence that our colors and logo are similar. But yeah, the King Movement, and it's really about helping men and encouraging men and teaching men to become the men that God created us to be in all areas of life. So we try to help men be the husbands God's created them to be, the fathers He's created them to be, the leaders, role models, citizens that He's created them to be. And obviously that includes career help and things like that too. Because one thing, it seems like a big part with King is we, as you said, we're concerned about the African-American community. And we feel like if we can get our men, there are a lot of issues that we're facing. And some of them are systemic and institutional, and some of them are just personal within our own individual, our own society, our own community. And we feel like if we could get those men, those of us who profess to follow Jesus Christ, to walk that out in our daily lives, then that in and of itself would go a long way improving the plight in our community. That's not to say there aren't systemic issues that we need to deal with outside of our community, but some of our stuff is on us. And we need to stand up and take responsibility for what we can change. And so we feel like if we do that, then we'll see a huge improvement in our community. I'll give you an example, boys. And as you said, I'm a sports writer. Back in the 90s, I covered high school sports in the Cleveland, Akron, Ohio area, where LeBron James is from Akron. And we did something called Player of the Week, where we would have, the star athletes of that week in all the sports, football, basketball, baseball, soccer, whatever it might be. Come in, we, do a big feature on them. We put their picture in the paper and all of that. So they would come in every Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, to meet the sports writers, and we'd interview them and we take their picture and all that. It got to a point, boys, where I could pretty much tell just from a few moments of interaction with the young brothers, the young black athletes, whether or not they had fathers. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, I'm not saying it was 100%, and obviously there are exceptions. My wife you grew up in a single parent home, so I'm not criticizing that or anything, but a lot of the brothers that came in that had fathers, their handshake was more firm. They looked you in the eye. Their grades tended to be better. They just seemed more rooted and grounded. Whereas a lot of times the brothers that didn't, they would just fly, super fly and all that, and not really. Sometimes the grades were messed up. Sometimes they didn't have direction, even as they were great athletes. And, it is imperative that we have fathers in the home. It's not an option. It's not, it'd be a nice thing. It's you can't replace it with another woman. You can replace that income. You can replace all that, but you can't replace having a man and a woman. Women are just as important in the household together with children. Boys, it's biological, it's scientific, it's even the sexual act speaks to it, it's religious, it's historical. Everything points to the man, woman, and child. And so we need to remember that. And, people can have different forms of families, but we can't let go of that family, the nuclear family, as they call it. And there's this, myth out there a lot of people are propagating that the nuclear family is a Western creation or white creation. Egypt was probably the greatest African civilization known to man. And it was based on the nuclear family. And even if you go to Ethiopia and other parts of Africa where it was the extended family, those extended families were essentially generations of nuclear families. So it might be me, my wife, and my children living with my mother and father and brothers. And then our children, when they got married, living with, them, their husband, and their children living with us. That was the extended family. It wasn't just, we don't have fathers in the extended family. No, you have fathers. And so we need to, like I said, remember that, because I just think that's the best model. And I mentioned all those things that speak to it for human flourishing.
Everybody who just came in, I'm speaking with Mr. Chris Broussard. Chris Broussard is not just a respected sports commentator and journalist. He's also the founder of a movement that was designed for our people called the King Movement. Kingmovement.com is the website if you want to go take a look. And it's all about manhood and our role as men in our community. If you could, please take 1 second. We're building Black media. We're trying to battle against people that have much bigger budgets and much bigger platforms. But we believe we will win because we are smarter and we are more capable. So if you could hit the thumbs up button, please share this video because everybody needs to hear this. So, man, I'm going to ask you a question. You talked about something that was really, really impactful a minute ago. You said something that I believe as well. You and I are in our 40s, or I don't know if you're 50 yet, but
I've crossed that threshold. Just a little bit, but I'm in my 50s. Yes.
Well, this is a great time though to be where we're at because we have a great opportunity to take on that what I call that OG status. That status where we can kind of just make sure our voices are heard in the ears of youth that are getting all kinds of other messages that are not going to lead to a good life. I want young Black men especially to have good lives. I want young Black women to be safe and to be capable and to be free to do whatever they want. And so I think our voices are important. And you talked about something that I've always said myself, which is it's kind of unfortunate, but you meet a young person, a young guy, you can tell, who had a sturdy father, who didn't. It's nothing against anybody that didn't have that. You can't control what you're born into.
There's obviously exceptions, plenty of exceptions. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I had no father until I was 3, and I had a man who stepped into that role and took that job over and did a great job. Without him, I wouldn't be the same man. Now, another person that everyone's been talking about lately, who also, ironically, didn't have a father in his household. In fact, I'm going to tell you all the whole breakdown in a minute. It ties right into what Chris said. Is this brother right here? You might know him from Coming to America. And that is him both on the left and the right. His name's Jermaine Fowler. Jermaine was the star of Coming to America, this great, beautiful movie that was just done. And what happened with Jermaine, Chris, was that, once the movie came out, everybody was like, oh, well, who's this guy? He's talented. I'm sure the ladies thought he was handsome. He's a great actor. No question about his talent. No question about who he is or lifestyle, nothing like that. But a lot of people were very disappointed to see the drag image, which was really fascinating. I mean, Alicia, my fiance, looked at that. She said, he's better with makeup than I am. Whoever did his makeup, pristine job, and then almost to the point where you can't even tell it's the same person. Now, here's the thing.
No, right.
I want to make sure this is not a negative conversation, but let me tell you a little something about this brother. I read bios of people when I really want to understand their background, their context. How did you get to become who you are? What was your path? And I read in his story that his two parents, his father's name was Jerome. I don't have his mother's name in front of me. They were teen parents, and his parent. I read on this bio in People magazine that his parents got divorced because his mother came out as a lesbian, and his mother is now married to a woman. Right now, nothing against anybody in that category. This is not anti-nobody. Right, yeah. But this really made a lot of people, I think, very frustrated because they said, "Wait a minute, what is going on? Is there something in Hollywood, particularly their agenda, that specifically targets Black male masculinity? That specifically says, look, we need you to check these boxes before we'll give you any big opportunities." Right. And it's nothing against those people that check the boxes. They have a right to be who they want to be. But then they'll turn and they'll persecute someone like yourself, a Christian, who says, that's not how we want the majority. This is not a reflection of the majority of our people. Right. And you're kind of being dishonest with that. Can you speak to this in terms of what you just saw and everything I just said?
That was stunning. I mean, I just watched the movie on Saturday and I enjoyed it. I never would have guessed that one, that brother dressed in drag, but two, if you had shown me that picture, as your wife kind of said, I never would have thought that was him. I could have guessed a million people before I would have guessed him. Look, I'm going to be honest. And I guess, boys, I'm kind of on the fringes of Hollywood. When I'm out in LA a good amount, I'm on our Fox Sports lot is on the Fox Studios lot where they film a lot of different things. I've been in one movie and,
what movie was that? I didn't mean to wrong. What movie was it?
Yeah, right. It was called #Reality High.
Okay, got it.
It was on Netflix. Actually, here's the reason I was in it. I want to flex, but my cousin was the writer. He wrote it. It was his movie, but it was a fairly big time movie on Netflix. He is legitimate. He has a movie. He had a movie, The Perfect Match, I think it was called, that was in theaters about 2 years ago. Had Terrence J, Paula Patton, Robin Givens, people like that in it. So he's a legitimate filmmaker. But yeah, I played myself. It was pretty simple. But where I'm at, and even dealing with a lot of professional athletes, you're kind of in that fringe, of Hollywood. I have not seen it. So you see a lot. This, boys, you see a lot of people saying, wow, to get to a certain point, whether you to get to a certain level in your rap career, to get to a certain level in Hollywood, you have to give up your manhood. Where I'm at, I have not seen that. That doesn't mean it's not true to some extent. I haven't seen it personally. What I have been told, though, by a few brothers in Hollywood is that there's a war on masculinity in Hollywood. And this was a brother. It was a Black man. I don't recall him necessarily saying Black masculinity, but just in general, masculinity in Hollywood. And what's interesting is that it seems like virtually all of these shows that cater to Black people have a homosexual presence in them. which is fine. There are obviously Black homosexuals and all that, so that can be a part of the Black story, right. But it's overdone. It's done to a point where it's almost like every family, every office, like they're in every show, and it's just, I think it's being it's somewhat being pushed on the Black community, because if you go back a few years, either when Barack Obama was president or right before that, the Black community was kind of viewed as that last bastion that didn't just fully embrace, alternative lifestyles, if you will, right? Because of the influence of the Black church, the black community was viewed as homophobic. And so I think there has been this push to get, people, get the Black community on board with this. And obviously President Obama, with his promotion of same-sex marriage, that went a long way in doing it. And now as they, all these shows, I mean, I was talking with someone the other day, and we were a friend of mine, we were just running down the shows, and it was everything had that strong homosexual or now even transgender presence. And again, that is a part of the Black story, as it is all racial groups. But I think it's being put out there like it's a much larger proportion of our people than it actually is.
Everybody who just came in, I'm talking to Chris Broussard, and we're talking about Black masculinity. And I want everybody to take note of Chris's movement. He's the founder of something called the King Movement, which is designed to help us take our role as kings and help you to raise kings and all these and everything else. So take a look at the program. Everybody support this. It's kingmovement.com. The URL's on the screen. And also the blackbosschannel.com is also where we're broadcasting from. Hit the thumbs up button. Everybody take 1 minute. Please hit that thumbs up button because we really need your support. Please share the video. Make sure you subscribe, all that. Chris, let me show you something. I like to share screens sometimes just to show, just to provide, I don't know, talking points. And I did a quick little search on Black actors who have worn dresses in performances. So we're gonna go down this list, and anybody that's missing on the list, I want you guys to kind of throw this in there. Now we're talking about masculinity and the assault on masculinity. So let's see if there could be an agenda here. All right. So Black actors who have worn dresses. We got Eddie Murphy. We've seen many characters he plays. Jamie Foxx. There's Wanda. Chris Tucker. Anybody remember this movie? I forgot what it was. Came out in the 90s. Bruce Willis. I forgot what it's called. You got what was it? The Fifth Element. Wesley Snipes here in that Tu Wong Fu movie. You got Martin Lawrence, of course, Big Mama. Tyler Perry right here on SNL with Madea. Made $1 billion. Madea made him a billionaire. You got Arsenio Hall from the original Coming to America. Flip Wilson. That's a little old school, but there's Flip. Miguel Nunez Jr. I know Miguel. He's a very nice guy. But Juwanna Man, everybody remembers that was his most famous role. Ving Rhames, right here, which really surprised me. I didn't expect that, but hey, not judging. Sean and Marlon Wayans, White Girls. And then I'm sure there's more maybe in the chat. You all can remind us. Now the reason I bring this up, Chris, again, is I want to reiterate that this is not attacking anybody. And I think I like the fact that you mentioned that story is part of the Black story. We can't sit here and pretend like we're not a diverse community like everybody else. And I think that's really important because, when I think about the best Christians I know, the first word that comes to mind is love. Love is a very important word to me in the Christian dictionary, Christian rhetoric. And most of the people I know, this is why I became very defensive when people were kind of attacking the church, is I said, look, when I go to church, I don't see anybody that is out trying to hate people because of what you do in your personal life. They're just, the strong ones. They're just solid. They're just clear. Like, this is who I am. This is what I believe. You believe what you believe. And I think about my parents too. My father's position is sort of like, well, how does my opinion affect you? You know, like your opinion can be, your opinion doesn't affect me. You can think whatever you want. In my house, we're gonna do it my way. In your house, you do it your way.
Right.
Why can't we live in a world like that? Why are things shoved down people's throats? I think that's the, you know, why is it that this stuff is pushed in our face and pushed into schools and you're being attacked if you don't buy into this agenda? I think that's wrong. And I think it's right to fight against that. What do you think about that?
No, I totally agree. And it's interesting. Michael T. Williamson, who you might not know the name, but you've seen him plenty. He's in Forrest Gump. He was Bubba Gump, I believe, in Forrest Gump. He was in ATL. I'm sure you saw the movie ATL with T.I. He was T.I.'s uncle that he lived with. So you know him well. He's been in a lot of different things. Fences and Waiting Exhale. I mean, you can go on and on.
I'm looking him up, but yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about.
L-T-I. He contributed to, we have an event, the King Summit, coming up March 19th and 20th, a virtual event where we're going to address a lot of issues of manhood. And he has contributed. Yeah. So everybody, in the Black community, everybody knows this brother, great actor. And he said that in promoting our summit, he said, look, you get to be you, whatever that may be, and I get to be me. So it's like you said, America is a pluralistic society. And that means you're going to have people of different religions, different races, different belief systems, different lifestyles. Now, it's somewhat of an experiment, boys, you know, to try to have a country like this, right? I think most countries do have and historically have had kind of an identity, if you will. And we're trying to be pluralistic, and it's an experiment. But in being pluralistic, you have to let people do what they do and believe what they believe and live according to their belief system. And what's happening is, as one group or groups of people are coming out of the closet, so to speak, they're really trying to push other people into the closet. And again, this is not just Christians. This is people of faith in general, because whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hebrew, Buddhist, the moral values of all the religions are very similar in how you're told to live your life, what you're told morality is and moral behavior. And so it is not, this is in trying to get Christians to go against what the Bible teaches about sexuality or gender. They're also trying to get Muslims to do it, Jews who want to follow the Torah to do it, and so on and so forth. So we have to, again, being pluralistic, you have to let people believe what they want to believe and live according to their teaching. You shouldn't tell a Christian to go against the Bible. You shouldn't tell a Muslim to make it a law where they have to go against the Quran and so on and so forth. And that's what society is beginning to do in terms of gender and sexuality and things like that. Again, not saying you can't do what you do, but let us do what we do. And here's the thing, boys. Honestly, I don't think the people that are pushing this, it's almost like they're not following the logical conclusion of what a lot of this would lead to. Okay? Because, for instance, when you have biological males that are claimed to be transgender and think of themselves as women, if you're going to let them compete against biological females in sports, the females are in trouble. All right? They're not there. It's just a physical fact that the overwhelming majority of women cannot physically compete with men as a general rule. Yes, there are exceptions, but as a general rule, that's the problem. And you already see it with many states where boys, biological boys, are running track or wrestling against biological girls and destroying them. Destroying them. Boys, the WNBA, taken to its logical conclusion, the WNBA would become the G League. You got dudes that go and say, I'm a woman, so they can collect a paycheck in the WNBA. And here's the thing: a lot of people would say, well, but you have to really be transgender. But what is the definition of that? Like we've got all these genders now. There's like 80 something or 100. It's innumerable. And so you can't even say you really like. Let's just keep it real. What defines the woman? That he or she wears a wig so they have long hair? That they wear a dress? That they wear makeup? No, because some women who are biological women wear pants, don't wear makeup, don't have long hair, right? So what is it who they love? Is it that they're sexually attracted to men? No, because some women are attracted. Like, what in the world is the definition? So I could literally roll up, not changing my voice, not, just dressing like I'm dressed and be like, I'm a woman. And you have no let me play in the WNBA. I'm a woman, and then even if after the game or say the next day, I'm out acting like a dude, I can say, well, I'm gender fluid. So yeah, when I play ball, I'm a woman. when I'm in society, I'm a man. Like, come on. I mean, what my point is just, and I'm not even trying to make fun, but the logical conclusion, boys, of what we are what we are beginning to do does not make sense. I don't know how a society will be able to exist. Language has changed. I've seen respectable people I know, I won't even name him, but I've seen respectable academics say that a man can get pregnant. Well, obviously they mean what? I get confused. Like a woman, a transgender man, but a woman who thinks she's a woman who thinks she's a man. So you have to treat her like a man, can get pregnant. So a man can get pregnant. And these were the same people, boys, that were saying it's all about biology. It's all about born this way, right? When the homosexual movement was really gaining steam, it was all about they're born this way. Well, what happened to born this way? What happened to actually being born as a male or being born as a female? That's all thrown out the window now. And so it is it's just that if you carry these things out, domestic violence, if me and you boys, if you and I get in a fight, it's just two dudes who got in a fight, right? And may the best man win. But if I hit a woman, that's wrong and it's frowned as it should be. But if I end up fighting with a dude who claims to be a woman, he's a biological male, but he's a woman, he might beat me down for, who knows? But is that the same thing? Is that hitting a woman? I mean, again, I believe that sex segregation is a good thing in certain instances. I'm just going to keep it real. When my daughters were in high school, I would not have wanted a boy. Now, they went to an all-girls high school, but still, I wouldn't have wanted a boy to be able to go into the locker room and shower with them after one of their athletic practices.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been comfortable with that,
I'll tell you, brother, I got daughters, and no, I would not, no, they're not competing with the boys, period. My heart goes out to whatever story you have. I be what you want to be, wear as many dresses and high heels as you want. But, when you get out here, especially when you talk about contact sports, there was the I guess the fighter, she was doing MMA or something and broke the lady's skull, and the lady was trying to, the lady who was the victim of this in this fight, she was trying to be politically correct. She's like, look, I'm not qualified to decide who's a male, who's a female. But she said, but I've fought a lot of women. I'm a very strong woman. I've never met a woman that strong in my life. Right. And then she was just being honest about it. Weightlifting, lady set the world record with cycling. The world record was broken there. I think it was either Massachusetts or one of those, or Connecticut. I think that something like 14 of the gold medals at the
Two
state
brothers, right? Two
yeah.
high school brothers that were running as women, girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
They broke like all state records that had taken decades to set. They broke them in months. Like, I mean, and again, boy, I'm really appealing to the logic in human beings. And again, we're not saying that people don't have conditions or they can do what they want to do, but it is not. I just gonna keep it real. It's not fair to girls to have to compete against biological boys. It just is. And you know, and I don't think it's actually not even fair for them to have to change in a locker room, shower in locker rooms with biological boys.
Yeah, my question is like, what? I always ask, what's the standard? You know, like what is the? You know, I mean, can you and I? Did you play sports in high school?
Yeah, I played basketball, football, and baseball. Yep.
Okay, so let's say, and you know, so you're a competitive guy. You know how it feels when you really want to win. You know, like you really want to go to the next level, but God just gave you so much talent, and you just got to work with that. Right. I specifically remember in high school, I was captain of the track team. I remember in high school, I would see these dudes I had to run against, like the fastest in the state, you know, and I'd be like, man, I can't beat these guys. And then I watch the girls run, and they'll be like, the winning time in the 100 meters was 12.2 seconds. I'd be like, oh, I could jog that speed. Right. And so I remember having like that Joanna man kind of thought, like as a kid, like, gosh, it would be so cool if I had my same talent and I could run against the girl. You know, it doesn't mean women are inferior. It just means like a lot of guys think about that. Right. And so when you open that door wide open, you're going to have a lot of dudes going into the WNBA and all these other places. You know, the guys that couldn't make it to, you know, to playing against the men. I mean, what's stopping that? What is stopping that?
No, boys, and that's the hypocrisy. And the NBA has been very progressive in a lot of ways, but that's the hypocrisy of the NBA and other leagues. They took the All-Star game out of North Carolina for over what they called the bathroom bill, because the state voted, you know, against letting people go to the bathroom they wanted to, rather than the bathroom of their biological sex. And the NBA took the All-Star game away from them. Well, you're doing the same thing. You have an NBA. There are no women in the NBA as players. There are no men in the WNBA. Why is that? You know, and you can say, oh, a woman's not good enough to play in the NBA. Okay, I get that, and I agree. But there's men that can play in the WNBA.
Yeah.
And as we said, because there is no standard, it's not even that. And even if it were the standard of, well, you got to wear a dress and makeup, that's not what defines a woman. So that's insulting to women. And so you're right, boys, in that, especially when you look at the economic plight of a lot of brothers. Right? Where they can't get really that job making a lot of money. You know, maybe they had some issues in their background, whatever, but the 50,000, 75,000, 100,000, whatever they could make with the WNBA for 3 months of season. Man, it's a lot of dudes that, if push came to shove, would go do that. And again, they wouldn't even have to give up any of their, what we refer to as masculinity. They wouldn't have to walk different, because how can you say I'm not a woman when this is just how I talk? I'm just a little more rugged than maybe the average female. But you know, what's happening, boys, is we're erasing the standards. We're erasing standards. And I'll use this analogy, and hopefully this can get through to a lot of people. Freedom, I heard a pastor, A.R. Bernard, New York, say, I believe he said, freedom's great. I don't even want to misplace it, but let me just put it this way. You always need standards and rules. Okay? If you get rid of standards and rules, then we might think, oh, that's freedom, but it really is chaos. So let's take the sport of football. You have certain rules in football, right? You have the sidelines. You have 11 men on the field on each team, penalties, all that stuff. What if in the name of freedom, we're like, you know what, man, this is too this is too, restrictive. So let's get rid of the sidelines. So now the running back he don't have to stay in bounds. He can run all out the sidelines, up in the stands. You still got to tackle him. Instead of using one football, that's so restrictive. Let's use 3. Let's use 3 footballs at once. And you know what? 11 men on the field. You can have as many as you want. Put 30 dudes out there on the defense against the 11 offense. You get my point. It would no longer be fun. We would no longer be able to enjoy the game. It would become chaos. Now, again, in coming up with this, somebody might think, man, that's freedom. That would be fun. But no, it would become chaos. And so it's similar. Like, you can't have a government voice without certain rules and standards. Mm-hmm. You can't have a business. You're a businessman without certain rules and standards. You can't have a school without certain rules and standards. You can't have a family without certain rules and standards. I love my kids. I gave them freedom, but it wasn't anything goes. Mm. Mm-hmm. You wasn't about to wake up in the morning and eat chocolate chip cookies for breakfast all day. You wasn't about to go to sleep whenever you wanted. You had a bedtime. You had to do chores. Like, we need standards and rules in human society, regardless of race, ethnicity, whatever, for us to really enjoy it to the fullest and thrive. And that's why I said, I don't think people are thinking this out to its logical conclusion. You're changing the meaning of everything. We obviously have pronouns that really don't, let's just be honest, they don't mean anything anymore. I mean, they don't. If I said my pronouns are she and they, I mean, that's literally going against what those words mean. So now they have no meaning. I'm just keeping it real.
Standards matter, and you're right. And I think that what is really fascinating is that sometimes, the revolutionary who claims to be fighting for their own freedom, if they don't have a standard or some sort of restraint, you can end up infringing on the rights of others. And I think that's where we're getting is I never really thought I'd see the liberal left start to become the fascists. Right. I always thought fascists were on the right. I'm thinking about Hitler, Mussolini, people like that. But I'm like, whoa, they're acting like fascists. And what's really fascinating about that example, I love the analogy later when you're talking about. Well, both of them were great, the football and the basketball analogy. But I was imagining the WNBA. If you are a guy who doesn't mind, maybe being made fun of a little bit, because you decided you want to go play with the women and stuff like that and want to be a woman. But then again, who knows, man? I mean, there are LGBT athletes everywhere. So maybe you're already, you're like, oh, hey, I already sleep with men. So it's not a big switch, right? And so, the guys out there. And here's the interesting thing. If anybody ever calls you out on your BS, all you got to do is just say, accuse them of attacking you.
Right.
Like, what are you transphobic? Are you homophobic? Right. That's how you avoid accountability. And it goes back to that thing when you talk about standards. When you are able to preemptively position yourself as the default victim in every engagement, then you have positioned yourself with the higher ground in every situation you walk into. People can't hold you accountable anymore. Nobody can challenge you on your BS. Because all you got to do is you just flip it back and say, oh, well, you must be sexist. You must be racist. You must be homophobic. And I think that's so bad for this country because I think there are a lot of good people who are saying, look, I'm not trying to be none of those things. I just want to ask some questions. Right. And I think they get so frustrated, that they just say, you know what, forget all this stuff. I'm abandoning the left because I don't know about you, but I grew up, as a member of the Democratic Party and all this other stuff. I was right in there with that stuff. But then they started getting crazy. And I said, I can't do this because like you said, it ain't making no damn sense no more.
Man, boys, I am with you. I'm a registered Democrat just because I haven't gone and changed. I'm not going to be a Republican. I'm really an independent. But I was saying to somebody, hey, I can't be the Democrat no more. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I get that certain things are, they're more inclusive and all that. I can't rock with you no more. And again, I'm not saying I'm a Republican. I voted for a third party candidate for president, so I'm not rocking with either side. but I definitely can't rock with y'all. I'm sorry. And again, look, voice, and I was working with Ice Cube, before the election on the contract with Black America, and still working with him actually. But I got a call from a minister who I know who was working with the Biden administration before the election. And it was something like clergy for Biden or that type of thing. And because I lead the King movement, which is a Christian movement, they asked me if I would be interested in being on these, calls and discussing things as part of the clergy for Biden with their administration. And I was like, oh, yes, definitely. And I said, because my thing is this, we have got to maintain religious liberty. Now, you're not infringing on anybody else's right to do or believe what they believe. But if I'm a church, I've got to be able to teach what the Bible says about various things. If I'm a mosque, I've got to be able to teach what the Quran says in our schools, in our services, all of that. If I'm a temple, a synagogue, I've got to be able to teach what the Torah says about various things. And so I was excited, because I was like, religious liberty, there's a lot of issues, obviously, but one of them is religious liberty that's important. And I never heard back from them. And the woman that called me, she agreed with me. She called me again and was like, yeah, have they reached out to you? No, okay, I'm going to hit them up and tell them call. Never heard from them. And that's what I'm saying. But here's the thing, and I may have said this on your show before. The Democratic Party could not have won this election without the Black vote. They had no chance. And so that gave us leverage. That gave us leverage to make demands. And I think we made very few demands. We should have made a lot of demands, but one of them should have been religious liberty. Because again, we're supposedly the most religious people in the country. And so that should have been one of our demands. Let our churches teach Christian beliefs. Let our mosques teach Muslim beliefs. And they just gave it up. They gave it up, and as far as I could see, honestly, without even much of a push.
Well, that's why, the work that you did or that you've done with Ice Cube, and and I know I talked to Cube a couple times about what you all were working on. I just shared my thoughts on the contract of Black America. I didn't participate in writing any of it. But I was, when you talk about making demands, demands were being made, right? He was making demands on behalf of the Black community, people like yourself and myself. We were supporting that. And it's like that voice was just kind of ignored and neglected in favor of other voices, right, that were out there. Now, one of the things that I actually appreciate, though, is I think that it's almost like I think Maya Angelou used to say, when somebody shows you who they are, you need to believe them. And that was one of the most more interesting things is I remember when Cube and I were talking. I don't think he would mind me sharing this part of our conversation, but I remember he was very frustrated. He wanted, he's like, look, I want the Democrats to hear me out on this because almost like they're our friends. Like, why would my friend not support us on this? This is very logical. Why would my friend not show up for us? And I remember kind of saying, I don't think they're really your friends. What I mean? Like I really think, but here's the thing though. We know Ice Cube has a lot of friends, right? You got a lot of friends. I got a lot of friends, right? So why not focus our energy on partnering with the friends that we really have instead of hoping to get friends, instead of chasing waterfalls? You know what I mean? Like, you just shoot the layup. You ain't got to shoot the half-court shot. You know what I mean? Get your layups and your free throws, whatever, right? Run the ball. You ain't got to throw it 80 yards down the field. I think that if you look at the power of the Black athlete, the power of entertainers, I know entertainers are listening to what people like you and I are saying. I know this. I hear them rapping about financial concepts in their songs now. They weren't doing that 10 years ago, right? So why not harness that power? And I think it's being done, right? The King movement, to me, is an example of the manifestation of what's a masculine leadership in the community. Doesn't mean feminine leadership is not important as well. We know the sisters they're killing it, right? God bless them. We love them, right? But I think just watching that black man kind of show up to the party too and say, okay, I'm gonna bring my black man magic, right? You got black girl magic, you got black boy, black man magic too, right? So we show up and we manifest like that. That is a masculine trait that men are supposed to be. In my view, this is me giving a boyism here. I believe that one signal of masculinity is the ability to see a vision and pursue that vision and manifest that vision. Like magic, like say, okay, I visualize a building. It's going to be this high. This is what's going to look like. This is how we're going to come together. This is what's going to happen, period. Right? Powernomics speaks on masculine leadership. When he talks about power as the ability to pursue your agenda despite the opposition of others. It doesn't say, with the permission of others or with the approval of others. It means despite the opposition of others. And so when I think about that, man, and you're a sports guy, I know you'll get this. I think about things like football. Like nobody gave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers permission to take that Super Bowl from the Kansas City Chiefs. Right. They just took it, right? They just exerted power. They manifested the vision they had and said, our vision is going to be stronger than your vision, and ain't nothing you could do about it. Right. And we saw that on the field. And that is a mentality. And I think that, and I'm going to let you finish and tell us about the King movement, because I want to make sure I give you a chance to really flesh that out. But I love what you're doing with the King movement, because it's just us kind of saying, whatever y'all doing over there, do it. Right. Here's what we're doing. And we're not going to allow you to stop it. It's just going to happen. And that's just what it is. Right. So congratulations on manifesting, man. I have a lot of respect for that. So tell us about the King movement, because I want everybody listening to go to your website and support this, kingmovement.com. Tell us about this and tell us about the event you have coming up.
Yeah, March 19th and 20th is a virtual men's conference. It's called the King Summit. We do it every year. This is the 6th annual one. And this year it's virtual, so people can get on from all over the world if they like. And you can register at kingsummit.org, kingsummit.org. But we're addressing manhood, and we have pastors, we have scholars, we have Hall of Fame athletes and Super Bowl champion athletes speaking and being in discussions or being interviewed to talk about various aspects of manhood. So we're addressing family. So how to be the husband and father that God created you to be. Because, especially now, boys, a lot of, so many men aren't growing up with a father in the home, and women. And so they don't, even if they mean well and want to do the right thing and committed to getting married or whatever, they still may need training and teaching and what that means, because you never saw it. Like I said, in my marriage, I've been married now 25 years. And my wife, as I said, she grew up in a single parent household with her mother. She never saw the daily interaction between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. And so I grew up with two parents who were married, and I saw that every day. And initially there were different issues in our marriage because of that. If we had an argument or a fight, disagreement, she took it like it was the end of the world. And, maybe this isn't, the marriage she needs to be in and all that stuff. And I saw it. I was able to move on quickly from it because I grew up seeing that occasionally a husband and a wife are going to argue, and it doesn't mean you don't love each other. It doesn't mean it's time to get divorced. It doesn't mean, any of that. It's just a part of two people living together that still love each other. And so we teach, we're going to teach on family. We're going to teach on finances, which obviously is your expertise. We got a brother that worked on Wall Street for one of the largest hedge funds in the country, if not the world. We have a brother who's in his 30s. In his 30s, he became a millionaire, a debt-free millionaire. And these brothers are both in the King movement. And he works for a company, but, a good job with a company. But he didn't become that millionaire through just his salary. he was investing in real estate and so on and so forth. And so they're going to talk about finances. We talk about integrity, being a man of integrity and what that looks like and entails. We talk about justice, our current fight for justice and equality. We talk about even Black history. In particular, obviously, like I said, we're a Christian organization. Sometimes you deal with that myth that Christianity is the white man's religion. We address that head on by talking about Blacks in the Bible. We talk about Christianity in Africa. Christianity's been in Africa for 2,000 years. And so we talk about that in the early African church in Nubia, Egypt, Ethiopia, even parts of West Africa with a biblical scholar. This is all before the European conquest of Africa. It was not like the Europeans came and converted Africans and they were Christians. This is before that. We got Dr. Vince Bantu, who's our scholar, talking about it. He's actually in the process of translating African texts that are about Christianity. So basically they would be like Christian commentaries or Christian devotionals or things like that talk about the Christian faith. They're written in African language. Ge'ez, which is the Ethiopian language, Nubian, Coptic, which obviously was the Egyptian language. So he'll be one of the first guys, if not the first, to translate all of these manuscripts into English so that we can read them. But it's going to be plenty of stuff. We got rappers. We've got a step team. We got a comedian. So it's going to be entertaining as well as enlightening. But some of the names, and you showed it, thank you for showing that. But athletes are Brian Dawkins, who's a Hall of Fame football player, Tony Dungy, who everybody knows, Hall of Fame coach, former player as well, Ben Watson, Super Bowl champion, Greg Jennings, Super Bowl champion, Clark Kellogg, who anyone who's into college basketball knows Clark Kellogg from his broadcasting, Monty Williams, who's a great coach of the Phoenix Suns, Lionel Hollins, assistant coach with the Lakers, won a championship as a player and as a coach with the Lakers. So, and many more. A speech from Arrested Development. You remember?
By the way, I love Speech. Speech came through on the platform.
Good.
Yeah, my three favorites. I love everybody on the list, but my three favorites are that I've interacted with him was Speech, who's just great. I mean, his documentary. It's called the N-Word Factory. I mean, he killed it. He killed it. And then Allen Houston. I went to middle school with Allen. Like I literally.
Well, y'all both from Louisville. Did y'all know? Y'all knew each other then? Y'all were cool.
We knew each other like in passing. In high school, we were in middle school. Even in middle school, everyone knew Allen was kind of a great player. Ironically, though, he wasn't the best player on that team. There was actually another guy. I think his name was Richard Kennedy, who Allen might agree was actually better than him. But it was almost just one of those things where you know how it is in every city where you got guys that are great ballers, but everything else isn't quite where it needs to be.
Right.
So, but Allen, with his dad being Wade and being a coach, he was just on this straight and narrow path. And I remember being in school, I was a mess up. I mean, my grades were terrible. Allen was in advanced classes. Like he literally, he was one of, in our school, it would be like 50 kids and 3 of them would be Black in the advanced class. And of course the learning disabled class would be full of Black boys, right? You know how they do in the school.
Right.
And Allen would be one of those 3 kids in there. So he always was a guy that we always thought was going to do well. I knew him in passing. I think I was captain of the track team. I think he high jumped with us for a little while. Okay. But so we knew each other and kept in touch, and our family stayed in touch. And it was really fascinating to watch his career evolve, because I always used him as an example of my kids on how making good decisions can put you in good places, and about choosing to be a good human being. Yep. And I think Allen reflects that. And also my third favorite on the list, Etan Thomas, he reflects that. Just good quality people.
Yep. Yeah, no, they're all great brothers, and they've done various things with the King movement. And man, so that's the caliber of guys that we have talking. And again, it's important for us. You said it. Society's sending us very confused messages about manhood. And so it's important for us to counter that and teach brothers, young men, boys, what it is to be a man. And I say this, boys, because we know let's just keep it real. Mainstream society is pushing certain viewpoints on us. And here's what I say to black people. We know this is a society that's been against us for 400 years. And they've lied to us for 400 years, essentially. Little bits and things they tried to give us here and there, but for the most part, 400 years. Now, all of a sudden, we just going to believe everything they say in hook, line, and sinker? We right with no regard for what we actually think, what we think. No, we're not going along with. We don't have to. You can do it, but we can believe what we want to believe. And so that's an interesting thing. But yeah, man. So that's what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be teaching, about manhood, and so it's needed, as you know.
Yes, it is needed, and I'll tell you, it's my theory on what you just said in terms of us believing other people over ourselves. That it's easy to pull that off on people who don't know who they are. We are the ultimate white supremacists. White supremacy works best when you have willing participants. And so for us to think that we are not complicit in the strength of white supremacy, growing strength, or the maintenance of that strength, it would be ridiculous for us to think that. It goes back to when we were talking about power. And when you talk, if you were to talk to the Buccaneers and the Chiefs before that game, the Chiefs believed in Chiefs supremacy. The Buccaneers believed in Buccaneer supremacy. Well, you work it all out on the field.
Right.
Who's really superior, right? If the Buccaneers had shown up, believing that the Chiefs were superior, they wouldn't have been able to defeat them, right? So I think that for us, we show up to the game believing that white man's better than us, that he's smarter than us. He knows what vaccine we need to take. He knows what, he knows what's best for us. And I don't believe that. I think we know what's best for us. I'm not, for example, we talk about education. Why is it, that the first thing you do is you violate Malcolm X's rule? He said only a fool will let his enemy educate his children. First thing we're trained to do is say, here's our baby, master. You educate the baby. I don't know nothing. I was just a dumb, No, you're not. No, you're not. You're the mother of that child. You know that child better than that child, than anybody else. You're the father of that child. You know that child better than that teacher from the suburbs. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't send your kids to learn from other people, but you give them the foundation first, and then you send them out into the world. You don't send them out into the world and let the world give them a foundation, because then they're going to come back speaking Chinese, and you won't know what to hit. They're going to come back with some ideas where you're going to be like, where did you get this? Well, you never told them who they were. So now, like you and I are both, we've been exposed to lots of things, but that doesn't sway us, And when I talk about solid, when you become a psychological rock, a rock doesn't sway with the wind, but a leaf will blow all over the place depending on what's what. So you got to get your weight in early, so that you send the children out to the world as rocks, not as leaves. That's the key idea. So
that's powerful, and you're absolutely right. And you were addressing it earlier, how let's face it, the leaders of this latest Black revolution, right, that we're part of, are women, and in many cases homosexual men, but mainly women, and obviously our sisters. And I've said it, boys. I think the strongest person in America is the Black woman. And I say that because she not only has to deal with the racism and all the obstacles that mainstream society puts in her path and puts on her, but she also deals with a lot of the garbage we put on our Black women. So and yet when you look at, academically, they're lighting it up. I think 2/3 of the Black PhDs, Black medical school students, all that are Black women. Suicide rates, they got about the lowest, and yet they're raising our children by themselves in many cases. And so the Black woman is incredibly strong, but the dearth or the lack of Black male leadership in this latest revolution, if that's what you want to call it, it's embarrassing to us as Black Americans. I really think that. Again, not that our sisters can't be out there in leadership roles, but the fact that there's so few Black men, and in particular Black heterosexual men, because let's face it, we can be about diversity and all that. Without Black heterosexual men, there's not going to be a Black
we don't exist, right?
We don't say that. Again, logic. We need Black heterosexual men. All right. And so the fact that so few of us are out there as a part of this fight on the leadership role, that's an embarrassment to us as a race. It really is. Not saying there can't be as many women. My wife's a doctor. My 2 daughters are high achieving, women. And so I'm all for that. But we need men doing those things too. Mm-hmm. And so, and for anybody not to see it, and why, boys, is anybody dealing with it? Like on the mainstream level, is anybody really trying, like saying, we gotta reach Black boys and men and lift them up to this level? I don't know, mainstream, I don't see that. I see them trying to replace the Black man in the family with whether it's a Black woman, a white woman, woman of any kind, or just, because I know a lot of brothers, and you mentioned Eton Thomas and Allen Houston for that matter, both are very involved, and especially 10, 20 years ago, incredibly involved in the fatherhood movement, as you know, pushing fatherhood and the importance of it and so on and so forth. And it wasn't these 2 guys that said it, but other men that have been involved in that movement on a high level and got grants from the government to do this and stuff. They've told me that over the last several years, mainstream ain't so much feeling that fatherhood movement anymore. Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of like that goes against what's being pushed. What's being pushed is you don't really need the father. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, I understand, obviously, I believe you need the father, but in a sense, I understand they're saying, look, if you have two people in general, or one person who actually is making a lot of money and maybe can send that child to another, a good school, so to speak, they can grow up and be successful. You know what I'm saying? Like get a good job and this and that. But so there's a lot of it's interesting that push for fatherhood is not what it was just even 10, 15, 20 years ago. And you and I were even on some panels with Eton discussing things like that.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where I think that I think you're right. And I think if you look at history, if you read books like, Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, things like that, the reason that these books are so important is because it goes to the root of why Black fatherhood and strong masculine leadership is a threat. You go back 50,000 years, one group of men would go conquer a village, and first thing they did was they killed the men. They killed the men and raped the women and enslaved the children. And so the masculine Black male is a threat to white supremacy. It's hard to conquer and control the community when they have strong men. And I think, and I'm gonna ask the ladies who are listening, I think that most Black people who have common sense understand that fathers are very important. Fathers are just as important as mothers are. So ladies in the chat, if you agree with that statement, say something in the chat that men are important, because you're right. When you talk about what mainstream media is going to say, we know who's running mainstream media, right? It ain't people like us, right? But right now, this conversation is being controlled by you and I, right? So I think that speaks to that need of developing that infrastructure to allow you to ensure that you have your space, your zone. You ain't messing with nobody else, but you got your own zone where you can at least protect your freedom. And it's not an easy fight because you don't ever obtain power, freedom, or strength without going through some struggle, right? So I congratulate you on the King movement, man. I think it's extraordinary, and I support it 100%. And everybody who's watching, I hope you'll go and at least take a look at kingsummit.org and consider coming to that conference. I'm going to check in, man. I'm going to go ahead and buy a ticket and pop through, because I have a lot of respect for what you're doing, brother. So I want to say thank you for hanging out with us. It's been a great conversation.
Nah, man, look, I've been on here multiple times because I love our conversation. And I remember, I think maybe even before I was on your show years ago, we would talk. Yep. And I don't know if I'd call you for something or you call me just for something little. And we'd be on the phone for an hour and a half, talking about these issues. And it's great. I love what you're doing with your platform, because you said it, man. We need Black media, and Black media that's not controlled by outside forces.
Yes.
You know, and that's really rare. It's rare to have black media, period, but it's very rare to have black media that's not controlled by outside forces. So this is great, man, and I enjoyed the conversation.
All right, well, I enjoyed it too. And if everybody in the chat can give my brother Chris Broussard a digital thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate him coming by, and I hope you all will show appreciation as well. I also, if you could, please hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. KingSummit.org is where you can find out about Chris's about the King Summit that's coming up. The dates, what are the dates again, Chris?
March 19th and 20th.
Okay,
so it'll be from 6 to 9 p.m. on Friday, March 19th, and then 12 noon to 5 or 6 p.m. on Saturday, March 20th.
All right, great. And also, if you're interested in hearing from a black male perspective, we have the Black Boss channel. It's only brothers on this platform because black men need to be heard too. So we got Jeff Lightsey Jr. doing sports. We got guys talking about the stock market every day. They talk about relationships. They talk about health, all kinds of stuff. And Chris, you're always invited to come through anytime you want to.
Now,
man.
You know, and that's why, you know, my ladies, when I reached out to you, I mean, you guys are doing great stuff because I was checking it out. And the conversation, man, it was a conversation that needs to be had. And let's keep it real, boys. We're around brothers. This is what brothers are saying.
Yes.
I'm never afraid to say it, right? But This is what men are talking about, black men in particular. And so, yeah, man, I think it's great. The Black Boss channel is awesome. I actually have referred, because I know you're delving into sports. So I sent some dudes. They'll reach out to Jeff. Yeah, man. It's
liberating and it's exciting. And really what people got to understand is that when you start to find your own power and purpose, passion and principle and everything else, you're not so worried about what the white man's over here doing.
Right.
Like, you know, it's not that I don't consider, you know, some of the behavior I see from white supremacists to be disturbing, but I'm not sitting here thinking about that. You know, we over here building, man. And so focus on building, focus on what you got. Don't be sitting there jealous of what the other man got. You have a lot. You are the chosen people. Right. Be chosen, damn it. Stand in your power. All right, so everybody put a hashtag B1 in the chat. We're about to roll out. Chris got stuff to do. And thank you very much, man. It's so great to see you. And everybody, please have a good day. And we will talk to you again soon. Take care. Peace.